Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Tips. My name is Julian and the NHL season is finally here. It's starting up in just a few days. We're back to my favorite part of the year, the part of the season where I get to do waiver wire videos each and every week telling you guys which players you should consider looking at, adding to your team to make your rosters better. I do this every single week, so be sure to check back before week 2, before week 3, and so on. Before we get started though, guys, please leave a like, hit that notification bell, and hit that subscribe button. More than half of you guys watching this channel are not subscribed, so be sure to hit that subscribe button because it would mean the world to me, and I'm trying to reach 5,000 subscribers this year. Let's jump right into it now, and let's take a look at the schedule for week 1 of the fantasy season. And it's a long week this week because week 1 starts a little bit earlier, starts on Friday this week. And it starts with a game between San Jose in Nashville in Prague, Czech Republic. And then on Saturday, there's also another game, Nashville versus San Jose in Prague, Czech Republic. So those two teams actually play 2 games before any other team plays a single game this season. So definitely factor that in when you're making your waiver wire adds. And then Sunday and Monday, there are no teams that play. And then finally, the rest of the teams start to play on Tuesday, where there's 2 games, and then Wednesday there's 6 games, and then finally Thursday there's 10, Friday there's 4, Saturday there's 14, and then Sunday, for whatever reason, there are no games. So Saturday will be the last game day this week. So as you can see on the screen, guys, the busy nights are Thursday and Saturday. The off nights are every single other night of the week because there's really not a lot of games. So you probably have room to stream players every single other night except for Thursday and Saturday. So if you want to win your week 1 matchups, the logical thing to do is stream players from Nashville and San Jose, right? They play 2 games before any other team plays a single game. So if you have a player that has IR plus or IR eligibility and you know they're going to be ready for game 1, I don't care. Throw them on an IR spot, throw them on an IR plus spot, and stream a Nashville player or a San Jose player. And then after you stream that Nashville or San Jose player for those 2 days, you're going to drop that player. And then the player that you have from another team that had that IR or IR plus eligibility, you're going to un-IR them, and they're going to be ready for game 1. You're basically just getting free games here, guys, for your lineup. And listed on the screen here are guys that I would strongly consider streaming for this game. If you're in a really shallow league, you can consider streaming guys like Tanner Jeannot or Tomas Hertl or Ryan Johansson, Mikael Granlund, Logan Couture. Those guys are definitely solid bets to get you points for those 2 games. Mikael Granlund is actually, other than Jeannot, is my favorite option in Nashville because he is playing top line with Forsberg and with Duchesne. That's a pretty good deployment there, so definitely a solid streamer. Same with Tomas Hertl, obviously the best streamer, but he's obviously very highly rostered already, so likely he won't be available. But Logan Couture, also someone that definitely could get a lot of points. And then, as you can see, Matthias Ekholm, Alexandre Carrier, good defenseman to stream if there's no forwards available. Mario Ferraro is a guy who gets decent peripherals and hits and blocks. So if you need that, he's someone that's available. If you're in just a pure points league, obviously I wouldn't take Mario Ferraro. Then for goaltender streamers, there's Kevin Lankinen on Nashville. Should get one of the 2 games since it is a back-to-back set. James Reimer and Kaapo Kähkönen. And San Jose this week actually has 2 back-to-back sets. So both of these goalies will see 2 starts this week. And I think they're going to split the games going forward in this season. So Kähkönen, even though he's only 10% rostered, should see half of San Jose's games. And if he does play better than Reimer, he may get more starts going forward. We're going to have to monitor that situation. As for the rest of the forwards, Johansson's playing on the second line with Niederreiter and Thomas, all guys who are on the boards. And Jeannot's playing with Trenin and Sissons, also all guys who are on the board. Nashville is the better team, so if you are desperate, obviously take the third liners is better than taking nobody from Nashville. You might as well have someone to stream rather than having nobody. If you have that extra roster spot from an IR plus or whatever, definitely still worth streaming. And then for San Jose, it looks like the line's going to be Meier, Hertl, and Cunnin. Cunnen's only 4% rostered, so that's not bad as a streamer. And then Lindblom, Couture, and LeBanc. So these guys are all top 6, the forwards that I've included. Eklund has a chance of cracking the top 6, but it looks like he's not in the top 6 as of right now. So as of right now, I'm not picking him up. But if things change and he's put into the top 6, he's definitely someone that I would consider streaming for this weekend. All right, so now we're going to look into 2 teams that have a really bad schedule this week. And by that, I mean they only play 1 game the entire week 1. And those two teams are St. Louis and Winnipeg. So if you are streaming players, make sure to not stream players from St. Louis or Winnipeg. If you drafted guys like Robert Thomas or Tarasenko or Ryan O'Reilly, obviously you're not dropping them. Don't panic. You're just going to have to deal with a rough week 1 schedule. And that's okay. Sometimes the schedule isn't favorable for you, and you're still going to be able to work around it, hopefully, and hopefully still win the week. Hopefully you don't have too many players from St. Louis and Winnipeg. If you do, you may have to take the L this week, but going forward, you're definitely going to have better schedules, so don't sweat it too much. Now, teams with a good schedule. So other than Nashville and San Jose, which obviously have great schedules and play 4 games this week, the highest number of games that any team plays this week is 3. Now, for a team to have a good schedule, you got to play on at least 2 off nights, in my opinion, for this week. The Rangers and the Lightning play on 2 off nights, Tuesday and Friday, and then the Montreal Canadiens, the Carolina Hurricanes, and the Columbus Blue Jackets play also on 2 off nights, Wednesday and Friday. So players from those teams are definitely good streamers if you want players that can actually fit in your lineup for those off nights to try to win you this week. All right, so let's jump into the meat and potatoes of this video. This stuff that you're all waiting for, guys, and my player suggestions. And first on the list is Seth Jarvis of the Carolina Hurricanes. And like I just mentioned, guys, Carolina has a pretty decent off night schedule this week with those Wednesday and Friday off nights. As it's looking right now, he's playing on the top line with Sebastian Aho and Teuvo Teravainen, and that's definitely a great place to be. It looks like he may also be starting on Carolina's top power play with Aho and Teravainen and Brent Burns, so that's definitely a fantastic place to be if you're Seth Jarvis. And while he is owned in 65% of leagues, he probably should be owned in even more. Then I have Anton Lundell, and this is an interesting case here because he was tried out on the top line with Barkov and with Verhaeghe on the right wing. Now, the Florida Panthers coach has gone out and said, I'm not sure if I'm going to stack 2 lines or if I'm going to spread out the talent on 3 lines. So there's still a good chance that Lundell might end up being the 3rd line center in Florida. However, there was a game or 2 where he was playing on the wing beside Barkov and Verhaeghe, and that is going to be an electric line if that sticks. That also means that the other line is going to be Reinhart, Bennett, and Matthew Tkachuk. That's a pretty deadly top 6 for Florida, and if that sticks, you know that everyone there is going to get a lot of points. So if you're someone who doesn't have that much talent on their team and they're looking for someone that could have a super electric year, Anton Lundell is that guy, because if he does end up playing alongside Barkov, you know he's going to do well. Then have Matty Beniers of the Seattle Kraken, and he is going to be their top line center. And it looks like right now he's playing with Donato and with Bjorkstrand. And while I don't love Donato, Bjorkstrand is someone who's super talented, loves to fire the puck at the net, and he's definitely a great line mate for Matty Beniers. Matty Beniers is my favorite player to win the Calder Trophy this year for Rookie of the Year. I think he's someone that has a lot of talent, and I think he's someone that is definitely worth owning in a lot more than 42% of leagues. Beniers is going to have himself a good year this year. And I have Boone Jenner of the Columbus Blue Jackets, 37% rostered, and it seems right now he's the favorite to start on that top line with Gaudreau and Laine. Now, he already had a really good season with Patrick Laine last year, had really good chemistry, was on pace for 60 points had he stayed healthy the entire year, which is pretty solid. And now he gets Gaudreau on that line. Guys, Boone Jenner should be owned in a lot more leagues. Obviously, there is a chance that he doesn't get that top line center spot, but right now it looks like he's the favorite. Then I have Arturi Lehkonen of the Colorado Avalanche starting on the top line with McKinnon and Rantanen as well as a top power play. How is the only 30% owned? Lehkonen is bound to have a really good season, and is someone that should definitely be added in a lot more leagues. Next is my must-add player, Andrei Kuzmenko of the Vancouver Canucks, having an absolutely fantastic preseason so far. He was someone who was signed directly out of Russia, so he was a huge question mark to see how that game would translate to the NHL. So far in preseason, he's got 2 goals and 2 assists through 2 games. And has looked really electric. He's someone who's playing alongside Elias Pettersson, so he's definitely getting the opportunity to succeed. And I think that line is going to stick. So Kuzmenko is definitely a huge wild card this year. And if he continues to play like he's been playing in the preseason, he's definitely someone who should be owned in a lot more than 29% of leagues. Go ahead and pick him up ASAP. And I have Oliver Bjorkstrand of the Seattle Kraken. And Oliver Bjorkstrand, like I already mentioned when I was talking about Matty Beniers, he's someone that I really do like. He's super talented, super underappreciated, undervalued every single year in fantasy. He's someone who likes to shoot the puck a lot, and he's someone who is going to have a really, really solid year this year for the Seattle Kraken. And last year, he wasn't exactly playing with studs, still managed to get 57 points in 80 games and shot the puck a lot. He's someone that is a pretty solid add for your fantasy team, and he's going to be getting some really solid opportunities this year in Seattle. And then I have Nick Schmaltz, who I also could make my must-add player of the video. Nick Schmaltz, man. He's playing top line with Clayton Keller, and last year, did you see them at the end of the year? They had the most crazy chemistry. They were getting more than a point per game for a very, very long period of time. These guys have developed incredible chemistry together. And if they're able to replicate what they did last year together, oh boy, Nick Schmaltz could ever be a huge value waiver wire add. He's someone that I'm definitely going out and adding right now to my fantasy team. Then I have Phil Kessel of the Vegas Golden Knights, who's currently actually on the top line with Jack Eichel and with Riley Smith. Now, we don't know how he's going to look in Vegas, but he still managed to record over 50 points with a very, very bad Arizona Coyotes team. And this year, his plus-minus will be better. And other stats should be a lot better too, playing on a top line on a team where he's a lot more motivated. I think Kessel's actually going to have himself a pretty decent year. And because he's playing on the left wing, he should gain that left wing eligibility pretty soon. Then I have Mason McTavish, who's not someone I'm running out and adding right now, but he's someone I'm definitely keeping an eye on. Mason McTavish is one of my favorites for the Calder Trophy for Rookie of the Year this year. And he's currently on the third line with Lundestrom and Silverberg. So it's not the best deployment in the world, but if he plays well, he can definitely move up that lineup, possibly play with Zegras, and possibly play with Troy Terry. So he's definitely someone to keep an eye on. But right now with the deployment, I'm not crazy high on him. But honestly, the lines could even change before the start of the year. Definitely keep an eye on Mason McTavish because he can have himself an amazing year and possibly win Rookie of the Year. Next, I have Mason Marchment. He's a gigantic question mark going into this season. Is he going to be able to replicate that success that he had last year? He was able to get a point per game, almost 47 points in 54 games, playing on the third line in Florida. Now, this year, he's getting a second line opportunity in Dallas with Tyler Seguin and with Denis Gurianov. I'm excited to see how that looks and if he's able to maintain that kind of very, very good pace that he had last year. Definitely a huge question mark, but Mason Marchment also gives you a pretty safe floor with shots and with hits. So if you are in a league with those categories, Marchment is definitely someone that's worth adding and seeing how he does because he could be a huge, huge steal. Then I have David Krejci of the Boston Bruins. And with all the injuries in Boston, now we got an injury to Taylor Hall. Boston is deploying their top line, the Czech line. Pavel Zacha, David Krejci, and David Pastrnak. With all those guys from the Czech Republic playing together, you know they're going to have fun. Krejci, Zacha, and Pastrnak should all have a really, really good start to the year. And I'm definitely expecting Krejci to be fantasy viable this year and definitely should be rostered in more than 12% of leagues. Then I have Alex Newhook, who's currently centering the second line in Colorado between Rodriguez and Nichushkin. Now, while that doesn't seem amazing, Landeskog will normally be there instead of Rodriguez. As soon as he becomes healthy, Newhook's value becomes a lot higher, right? Because obviously Rodriguez is fine, but is definitely no Gabriel Landeskog. So Newhook, he's in Kadri's spot from last year, and we all know how well Kadri did last year. And Newhook is a very, very promising young star, and I think that he might be able to have himself a really solid year. You don't have to go out and add him right now, but he's definitely someone to keep an eye on because if he starts playing well, he's going to be added quickly. So definitely make sure that you're the guy to add him before somebody else does. And then I have Riley Smith of the Vegas Golden Knights, and like I already mentioned, he's playing on the top line with Phil Kessel and with Jack Eichel. And we all know how good Jack Eichel can be at his peak. He should be healthy this year, should be really, really good to go, guys. And Riley Smith has always played in Vegas with Marchessault and with William Karlsson, and this year getting that deployment, I kind of like that. Obviously, he's only 9% rostered, so you can add him. If he doesn't pan out, doesn't really do that much, easy drop, but he's someone that definitely in deeper leagues could do a lot of damage. And then I have Jack Quinn. It could be another must add for me here. Jack Quinn is currently playing on the top line in Buffalo with Tage Thompson and Victor Olofsson, and could also be deployed on that top power play. Jack Quinn is going to be a rookie this year, and he's someone that has such a deadly shot, and I think he's going to have himself an electrifying season this year in Buffalo. I'm really, really excited to watch him play. He's definitely one of my favorites for the Calder Trophy. And I think he's someone that you should be adding to your team right now, because Buffalo seems to really want to give him some solid deployment this year. And I think he's going to have himself a really, really deadly season. And Buffalo could be a huge, huge steal right now, adding him on the waiver wire. All right, my last 5 forwards. Nick Paul of the Tampa Bay Lightning, 5% rostered, currently manning that second line with Killorn and with Hagel. Last year with Tampa Bay, in the few games that he did play, he performed very, very well. So if you're in a super deep league, he's definitely someone to consider adding. Pavel Zacha, like I already mentioned, is on the Boston Bruins, playing on that top line with Krejci and with Pastrnak. That's definitely really solid deployment. And the coach has already mentioned that Zacha has really impressed him in training camp. So if you're in a deep league, you're getting a top line player here that's apparently impressed a lot in training camp. So definitely someone I'm considering adding to my team. Then I have Max Domi, who's currently playing on the top line with Patrick Kane and Andreas Athanasiou, who's also later on this list. Both Domi and Andreas Athanasiou suddenly become fantasy valuable adds. These are guys that haven't really been fantasy viable in a couple of years, but they're guys that have been in the past. And they're pretty much the only line that's ever going to be considered here in Chicago, because everybody else on the team kind of sucks. So as long as these guys are playing with Patrick Kane, these guys have fantasy value, and they're also playing on the top power play, so they're definitely guys to be considering here moving forward in fantasy, especially in deep leagues. Athanasiou's only owned in 1% of leagues, so definitely if you're in a super deep league, that might be a really, really good player to start considering streaming. And last but not least, I have Vitaly Kravtsov of the New York Rangers playing on the second line with Panarin and with Vincent Trocheck. He's a very promising rookie, and playing with those guys could have a really, really good year. Definitely someone I'm considering streaming in deeper leagues. And then there's his counterpart who's actually playing on the top line. Barclay Goodrow is currently playing with Kreider and with Zibanejad, so he's also someone that you could consider streaming in deeper leagues. Jumping into defenseman options now, and first on the list I have Shane Gostisbehere of the Arizona Coyotes, and he's currently slated to play on that top power play with Keller and with Schmaltz, and he had a really good year last year with over 50 points, guys, and if he plays on the top power play again, guys, which he should, he's definitely someone who could replicate that. And then I have Mark Giordano of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and after being traded to Toronto last year, Mark Giordano had some really good stats. Obviously, they were inflated a little bit, but even with a little bit of regression, Giordano's still going to have himself a really nice year, going to put up some points, going to put up some solid peripheral numbers, and I think he's actually a really, really good pick to add to your team. Add him now before too many people do. And then Alec Martinez is someone who's a really good candidate for a bounce back year. He's someone who blocks an insane amount of shots and could easily lead the league in blocks this year now that he's healthy, and should be good to go. It should actually put up a decent amount of points as well. If you're in a league where block shots count for a lot, definitely like Alec Martinez. And I actually like his points upside this year as well. And then I have Calen Addison of the Minnesota Wild, only 6% rostered, and they've announced that he's going to be their guy on the top power play this year, which is really, really good for his fantasy value. So if you're in a deep league and you need someone who can put up some points, Calen Addison is going to be that guy for you. Grab him now before somebody else does. And last but not least, I have Matt Roy of the Los Angeles Kings. While he's not an exciting option here, he's only 4% rostered, and he should get you a point about every 3 games. Puts up a decent amount of shots on goal, puts up a solid amount of hits, and a solid amount of blocks as well. So he's definitely going to be covering those peripherals for you, and while also putting up a point every 3 games, honestly, he should be more than 4% rostered. Jumping into goaltenders now, and first on the list is John Gibson, only 55% rostered. Guys, you should be adding John Gibson a lot more than 55% of leagues, because Anaheim has a really nice off-night schedule this year. Gets a lot of off nights this year. So if you already have 2 goalies, John Gibson is someone that you will still be able to play in a lot of situations because of the fact that Anaheim doesn't really play a lot on the busy nights. Then I have Vitek Vanacek, who's part of the Devils goaltending tandem this year. Probably will see about half the starts this year, unless Mackenzie Blackwood struggles, in which case he'll see it quite a bit more. But right now he's only about 47% rostered. He's someone that could be added in more leagues. Philip Grubauer is the starter in Seattle. Should see almost all the starts because Martin Jones sucks and is only 26% rostered. If you're in need for a starting goalie, Grubauer is someone that I actually kind of like this year. Cal Peterson should still get about half the starts in LA to start the year. As long as he doesn't struggle as hard as he did last year, Cal Peterson is someone that I like this year for fantasy because he should get about half the starts. Then I have Jake Allen of the Montreal Canadiens, only 13% rostered, and with Carey Price injured the entire year, Jake Allen is the starting goalie in Montreal and will get every single start for Montreal other than the back-to-back games. And if you're in a points-based league where saves count for points, he's someone that's going to be super, super valuable this year because he's going to get shot on a lot. Then I have Karel Vejmelka, same kind of thing there. If you're in a points-based league where saves count for points, Vejmelka is going to be very valuable to you. He's not going to get a whole lot of wins, though, that's for sure. Then I have Eric Comrie and Craig Anderson, the goaltending tandem for Buffalo. Now, if I had to give the edge to one of them right now, it would be Eric Comrie. Craig Anderson is quite old. He's actually 41 years old now, so he's definitely not going to get the bulk of the starts. Could get as many as half the starts for Buffalo, but for now, I'm going to give Eric Comrie the edge since he is a lot younger and probably more talented at this point, but both are definitely viable options if you're desperate for a goalie that's actually going to get starts. Then I have Mackenzie Blackwood, which I already mentioned is part of the Devils goaltending tandem, and I would actually give him the edge over Vanacek to get more starts this year, as long as he plays well. He hasn't played well in a few years, but we all know how talented this guy could be. So hopefully this year he can step it up and really show what he's made of. If he does, Mackenzie Blackwood could be the guy getting the majority of the starts in New Jersey. And then finally, I have Peter Mrazek of the Chicago Blackhawks, only 4% rostered, and obviously he is not my favorite goalie option, but if you're super desperate for a starting goalie that's going to get the majority of the starts, Peter Mrazek is that guy. And I'm only really considering him in points-based leagues where saves count for points because he should get shot on a lot and might actually be semi-valuable for you in those kinds of leagues. In Cats leagues, I'm not going anywhere near Peter Mrazek. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. Please leave a like, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. And if you do want to take your support to the next level, you can follow me on Patreon. The link is in the description below. Thanks so much for all your support, guys. I'm so excited for the NHL season to begin and to start doing this every single week for you guys. Take care, and I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tip.